O God, may the Son of Righteousness heal us today and forever. Amen. Please be seated. Raise your hand if you can remember ever having heard a sermon preached about the minor prophet Malachi. One hand. Well, today's your lucky day. You're getting that sermon, and I hope it is memorable for you. I took a course in seminary on the prophets, and the professor told this story. An acquaintance of his was leading a Bible study in an impoverished, oppressed rural area in the South. And the theme of the Bible study that day was God's very kind, gentle, merciful love. And so the group went on and on about reflecting on God in this way. It's very soft, gentle, receiving. And towards the end of the study, an older gentleman, a man of color, had been looked to be worn and aged, says, "Your idea of God all sounds fine and dandy, but that God ain't going to do a thing for me. I need God to come with a sledgehammer." In our tradition, we hold many images of God. Yes, God can be the gentle, loving, patient shepherd. God can be excited like the woman that found the lost coin. God can also be a protector. Hosea calls God a mother bear. We get many images of God, and one that we have to name as well is that God can be like a warrior, or uncontrollable like the whirlwind. And the biblical text today bring us face to face with a transcendent cosmic force that appears in earthquakes and burning ovens. A God that makes the rivers clap their hands and the hills ring out with joy. Malachi, the psalmist, and even Luke wants us to know that God packs a punch. The question ultimately is why? Why do we need this God? Why do we need to imagine God in this way? Why such apocalyptic imagery? Well, the writers of the Bible also give us that answer. It is the condition of immense suffering, poverty, oppression that propels our minds in hope to think of a world turned upside down. This gives us the desire to pray for the destruction of one world and the creation of a new and better world. The prophets talk about lightning, thunder, floods, furnaces, not because they're tripping on something, but because they see how their people have been tripped up again and again and again by sin and greed and exploitation. Biblical scholar John Collins notes that the apocalyptic literature in the Bible is born out of the prophetic tradition. And the project of the prophets is twofold. First of all, they denounce injustice, but they also want to energize us in building a new society. And we have this truth present in the book of Malachi. He wrote just after the Babylonian exile 2,500 years ago, when the people of Israel were flailing. Their community never returned to what it was prior to the exile, and the priests and the leaders were being derelict in their duty of fulfilling the law of Moses and the prophets. Society was marked by disparity, inequality, idolatry that caused the people to mockingly ask, "Where is the God of justice?" That's the concluding verse of chapter 2 in the book of Malachi. Well, chapter 3 begins with the prophet answering that rhetorical question. The name Malachi means "my messenger," and he is the messenger that will remind the leaders and the people about the justice rooted in covenantal relationship with God. "Lo, I am sending my messenger to prepare the way before me." A messenger to prepare the way. Sounds like Advent. Before there was John the Baptist, there was the prophet Malachi. And my friends, we need messengers. We need leaders to point towards the justice of God. And the season of Advent exists to tune our hearts to such messengers as we await the ultimate messenger in Jesus. Now, the main problem or blind spot that always emerges when we end up looking is that we end up looking in the wrong places for our messengers. We gaze towards people occupying positions of power, politicians, executives, news commentators, athletes, celebrities. And in the church, we too readily defer to ordained people, priests, bishops. And looking outward makes us forget that we too are called to be messengers. You might have heard that there was an election on Tuesday. Some of us are still waiting for those results, still counting votes, still hoping that that elected official might be the messenger or that political party. And I'm not here to throw cold water on that hope, as I know how much politicians can influence and impact our lives, particularly given one's gender identity, race, religion, etc. But I also want us to remember that we are to look beyond positions of power and privilege, to find our messengers in the faces of our suffering siblings. Because Tuesday's election did bring messengers. They weren't senators, they weren't attorney generals, they were the masses. Thousands of people confronting a rotten, filthy system and saying yes to their liberation. And here are a few examples. Like Massachusetts, many states had citizens vote on ballot questions. And did you know the state, South Dakota, and I'm told that's a red state, they voted to expand Medicaid in 2023. And the measure passed broadly, convincingly, meaning that now at least 40,000 low-income residents will have access to health care. Another state, Nebraska, passed a ballot question raising the minimum wage to $15. It was previously set at $9. This will benefit, according to the National Employment Law Project, almost 200,000 workers. The state of Arizona, we're told the purple state, well, they voted overwhelmingly to curtail medical debt and to limit wage garnishing for medical debt. And of course, you probably know by now that our state passed the Fair Share Amendment, taxing millionaires 4% to fund programs that will benefit our entire society. So instead of seeing states as red, blue, purple, what we need to remember is that in all states, God's people are hurting, and God holds out hope for their liberation. And if Advent is meant to do anything, my friends, it's meant to reinvigorate us. The season stirs up our collective memory to recall God's promise that through messengers, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. That's to say, God will restore our health and our wellness. And there are messengers here in this place. In this place, there are plenty. Last week, our sanctuary was filled with contingency from the Poor People's Campaign, who proclaimed the truth that everybody's got a right to live. Our MANNA community has been stalwart in crying out vacant hotel rooms, luxury condos, that they should be inhibited by people who are unhoused. Our diocese as well recently just passed the resolution at annual convention creating a reparations fund of $11 million. God reveals himself to us in multiple ways and presents various personalities depending on our needs. God very well may someday come with a sledgehammer, but the striking instrument won't be a tool of violence. It will be the irrepressible voice and courage of God's people. The mighty will fall, the lowly will be lifted up. So friends, let us prepare the way. Let us announce the good message that our messenger is coming. And we know that because we see other messengers all around who are already preparing the way.